The distant boom of explosions still echoed through space as Captain Hana Kim's reconnaissance ship glided through the debris field. The battle between Earth forces and the Navari had ended hours ago, but the wreckage told its own story. Twisted, metal and shattered hull fragments drifted silently against the backdrop of stars. "Command, this is Captain Kim. Sector 7 appears clear of survivors." "Moving to final quadrant before returning to base," Hana reported, her voice steady despite the devastation surrounding her. "Copy that, Captain. Complete your sweep and head home," came the crackled response. Hana adjusted her course, maneuvering carefully around a particularly large section of destroyed vessel. Her sensors suddenly beeped. Something small was generating power among the wreckage. "That's odd," she muttered, zooming in with external cameras. A tiny escape pod, barely larger than a storage container, tumbled slowly between debris clusters. Navari design, clearly, with its distinctive curved edges and purple-tinted viewport. Military protocol was clear: report enemy vessels and maintain distance until support arrived. But something about the pod's erratic movement pattern made Hana hesitate. The life support indicators were flickering. Whoever was inside didn't have much time. "Screw protocol," she whispered, guiding her ship closer. Using the mechanical arm, she carefully secured the pod and brought it into her cargo bay. Heart pounding, hand on her sidearm, Hana approached the sealed pod. The airlock hissed as she overrode the security system. Inside, curled into a tight ball, was a small purple-skinned child with delicate antennae that quivered with each frightened breath. "Hey there," Hana said softly, holstering her weapon. "You're safe now." The child looked up with enormous silver eyes. She couldn't be more than 5 or 6 years old by human standards. Her clothes were elaborately embroidered, unusual for Navari civilians, who typically wore simple garments. "My name is Hana. Can you understand me?" she asked, knowing the translation tech might not be perfect. The child nodded slowly. "I am Taya," she whispered in halting English. "Are you going to kill me too?" Hana's heart broke. No. I'm here to help you." She brought Taya to the ship's medical bay, where scans showed minor injuries but significant dehydration. As the child sipped water, Hana faced a difficult choice. The war with the Navari had made relations hostile. Prisoners were taken, not rescued. Children were supposed to be evacuated to neutral zones, not brought aboard military vessels. "Where's your family, Taya?" Hana asked gently. Tears welled in those silver eyes. "Gone. The big explosion. Father said I must go in the special pod." She touched the pendant around her neck, a swirling symbol Hana didn't recognize. "He said don't let anyone see this." Hana's communications officer, Jiwoo, entered the medical bay and froze. "Captain, that's a Navari child. We need to report this immediately." "And then what?" Hana challenged. "They'll take her as a prisoner of war." "She's a child, Jiwoo." "The protocols." "I know the protocols. I also know she'll die if we send her back right now. The Navari leadership has been executing anyone with connections to the old government." Jiwoo's eyes widened. "You think she's—" "I don't know who she is," Hana interrupted. "But I know she deserves a chance." Over the next 3 days, as their ship journeyed back to Earth's orbital station, Hana made a decision that would change both their lives. She falsified reports, claiming Taya was a survivor from a neutral colony caught in crossfire. When questioned, she stood firm, arguing that returning the child to Navari space would endanger her life. Diplomatic channels became entangled in red tape. The Navari government, now controlled by military hardliners, showed no interest in reclaiming one orphaned child. Instead, they demanded genetic samples to verify her identity, a request that made Hana deeply suspicious. "They're hiding something," Hana told her commanding officer. "And whatever it is, I won't send her back to be used or harmed." The standoff reached a breaking point when transfer orders came. Taya was to be moved to a research facility for diplomatic processing. Hana knew what that really meant: endless tests and interrogations. That night, she made the most difficult choice of her career. Using her military clearance one last time, she arranged civilian transport papers and resigned her commission. By morning, Hana and Taya were aboard a settlement ship bound for Earth's Pacific Northwest region. "Where are we going?" Taya asked, her small purple hand clutching Hana's as they watched Earth grow larger through the viewport. "Home," Hana replied simply. "We're going home." As their ship descended through clouds toward the green landscape below, Hana didn't regret her decision. Her military career was over, but looking at the child whose life she'd saved, she knew some things mattered more than protocol or rank. The orphan of Andromeda had found a new beginning, and so had the captain who couldn't leave her behind. Neither knew yet what challenges awaited them on Earth, or that Taya's royal bloodline would eventually pull them back to the stars. For now, they were simply two survivors finding their way forward together. 5 years passed quickly in the small coastal town where Hana and Taya made their home. Their house sat on a cliff overlooking the Pacific Ocean, and on clear nights Taya would stand on the back porch staring up at the stars, sometimes pointing to a faint cluster that humans couldn't quite distinguish. "That's where my first home was," she'd say quietly. At 12 years old, Taya had grown taller, her purple skin now shimmering with iridescent patterns that appeared during her growth spurts. Her antennae, once tiny nubs, now curved elegantly above her forehead, sensitive to changes in atmosphere and emotion. School had been the biggest challenge. Hana had initially homeschooled Taya, but they both knew isolation wouldn't help her adapt to Earth. The first day at Westridge Middle School had been tough. "Look at the space freak," a boy had whispered loudly as Taya walked into the classroom. Taya had frozen, her antennae pulling flat against her head, a Navari stress response. Then she'd done something unexpected. Instead of shrinking away, she'd walked directly to the boy. "I'm Taya," she'd said, extending her hand the way Hana had taught her. "And yes, I am from space. Would you like to know what the stars look like up close?" By lunchtime, she was surrounded by curious classmates, her natural storytelling abilities captivating them. That was Taya's gift, bridging differences with sincere interest and openness. "How do you do that?" Hana had asked later that evening. Taya looked confused. "Do what?" "Turn enemies into friends so quickly." Taya had considered this, her head tilting in that distinctly non-human way. "On Navari, we're taught that understanding others is weakness, but you showed me it's actually strength. I just want to understand them." Not everyone was won over, of course. Some parents complained about an alien child attending school with their kids. The principal, thankfully, had stood firm, pointing out that Earth's unity treaties protected all sentient species' rights to education. Hana worked as a flight instructor at the regional airfield, teaching civilian pilots. Her military background made her an excellent teacher, though she never discussed her former rank or the circumstances of her departure. The locals knew only that she had adopted a refugee child from the conflict, not an uncommon story in the aftermath of the war. Their peaceful life changed on a rainy Tuesday when a government car pulled into their driveway. "Captain Kim," said the tall woman at the door, showing credentials from Earth's Diplomatic Security Service. "May I come in?" "It's about Taya." Hana felt her chest tighten. "Former captain, and my daughter is at school." "That's good. We need to talk privately." Over tea, the agent, who introduced herself only as Director Park, revealed what intelligence services had discovered. The pendant Taya arrived with. "We've completed the analysis. It contains DNA markers and encrypted data consistent with Navari royal encoding." Director Park's expression remained neutral. "Taya isn't just any Navari child. She's the last surviving heir of House Vela, the imperial bloodline." Hana set down her cup with shaking hands. "That's impossible. The entire royal family was killed in the revolution. All except one, it seems. The current Navari government has placed a significant bounty for information on any surviving royals." Director Park leaned forward. "There's been a security breach. Someone knows she's here." That night after Taya went to bed, Hana packed essentials quietly. By dawn, they were on a transport to the Mars research colony, where Hana had called in favors from old military connections. The colony, primarily scientific and neutral in The ongoing cold peace between Earth and Navari would provide temporary safety. Their new home was a small habitat unit on the edge of Olympus City, the transparent dome offering spectacular views of the Martian landscape. Taya was fascinated by the reddish terrain, so different from Earth or her birth planet. "It's like living between worlds," she observed, pressing her palm against the thick glass. "Not quite one thing or another." Hana smiled sadly. "That's us, now I suppose." The Mars Academy welcomed Taya, where instructor Jin took special interest in her unique abilities. Navari processed information differently than humans with remarkable pattern recognition skills. When tested, Taya scored off the charts. "She's connecting concepts in ways we've never seen," Jin told Hana during a parent meeting. "It's like she's drawing from knowledge she shouldn't have yet." Unknown to them, this was the beginning of Taya's royal memories stirring. Genetic knowledge passed through bloodlines that typically activated during adolescence. On the colony, Taya found herself drawn to human history, particularly stories of cooperation and perseverance. The Mars settlers had survived incredible hardships by working together, a stark contrast to Navari culture, which valued strength through dominance. "My people believed that compassion was weakness," Taya told Hana one evening as they watched. The sunset turned the Martian sky deep crimson. "But humans survived here because you helped each other. You accepted limitations and found solutions together." Hana hugged her daughter close. "There are many kinds of strength." As they settled into their new life, Hana noticed Taya spending more time studying old Navari texts available in the colony archives. Sometimes she'd wake at night to find Taya drawing strange symbols, fragments of memories not yet fully formed. "Feel like there's something important I need to remember," Taya explained, frustrated. "Like when you know a word is on the tip of your tongue." What neither of them realized was that Taya's approaching biological transition would soon unlock everything: her full heritage, her responsibilities, and the dangerous truth about why the current Navari regime was so determined to find her. Now though, they were safe. Taya thrived among the diverse colony inhabitants, her unique perspective making her a natural bridge between different species and cultures. And though living between worlds wasn't easy, she was becoming something entirely new. Not just Navari, not just raised human, but something the galaxy had never seen before. The morning of Taya's 17th birthday began like any other on Mars. The artificial dawn gradually brightened their habitat, and Hana prepared a special breakfast, as close to traditional Korean hotteok as she could manage with Mars-grown ingredients. But when Taya didn't emerge from her room, Hana knocked. "Gently, sweetie. Your pancakes are getting cold." No answer. She pushed open the door to find Taya sitting cross-legged on the floor, eyes closed, antennae glowing with a soft blue light, something Hana had never seen before. Around her, floating in the air as if suspended by invisible threads, were dozens of tiny light particles forming intricate patterns. "Taya?" The girl's eyes snapped open, no longer silver but deep violet. She stared at Hana without recognition. "The third confluence approaches. The ancestral tide returns," Taya said, her voice overlaid with harmonic tones. Then she blinked. The lights vanished and she collapsed. Hana rushed her to the colony's medical center where Dr. Yoon, the xenobiologist, ran tests throughout the day. "It's remarkable," she finally explained, showing Hana the brain scans. "These neural pathways weren't active yesterday. It's as if new connections are forming rapidly, accessing dormant regions of her brain." "What does that mean?" Hana asked, clutching Taya's still hand. "According to the limited Navari medical data we have access to, royal bloodlines undergo something called ancestral awakening during adolescence. Essentially, genetic memories encoded in their DNA activate, allowing access to knowledge and experiences of their ancestors." Taya regained consciousness that evening, clearly disoriented. "Mom," she whispered, looking vulnerable despite the new intensity in her eyes. "There are so many voices in my head, so many memories that aren't mine." Over the next week, Taya struggled to integrate the flood of ancestral knowledge. She would speak in ancient Navari dialects, then switch to discussing quantum physics theories that even the colony scientists found advanced. Sometimes she'd stare at nothing, conversing with people who weren't there. It's like watching hundreds of movies all at once, she tried to explain. Generations of my ancestors living their lives, making decisions, ruling, fighting. Her face crumpled. They were so cold, Mom, so focused on power and control. Hannah held her daughter through the worst episodes, wiping away purple-tinged tears that left faint luminescent tracks on Taya's cheeks. On the 10th day, a message arrived through secure channels. A hidden resistance group on Navari had reached out. They called themselves the Twilight Coalition, composed of those who opposed the military junta that had overthrown the royal family. They had learned of Taya's existence and believed she was the rightful empress. I don't want to be anyone's empress, Taya said when Hannah showed her the message. These memories, they show me what that kind of power did to my family. It made them cruel. Before they could decide how to respond, Hannah collapsed during dinner, a high fever quickly overtaking her. The medical center identified the cause. The dormant form of a Navari pathogen she'd been exposed to during the original rescue mission years ago. The stress of recent events had compromised her immune system, allowing it to activate. Earth medicines proved ineffective. Taya watched helplessly as her adoptive mother grew weaker, spending hours researching possible cures in the colony archives. There's a treatment, she finally told Dr. Yoon, but it exists only in the royal medical facilities on Navari. My ancestral memories show it clearly. The doctor looked skeptical. Even if that's true, Navari is under hostile control. No one from Earth can safely travel there. Taya straightened, something regal entering her posture. I can. That evening, as Hannah drifted in and out of consciousness, Taya sat beside her bed, coming to a decision that would change everything. You saved me when no one else would, she whispered to her sleeping mother. Now it's my turn to save you. The next morning, Taya requested a meeting with the colony council. Standing before them, she seemed changed, taller somehow, her natural luminescence more pronounced. My name is Taya Vela Kim, she announced, using both her birth family name and the name Hannah had given her. I am the last descendant of the Navari royal lineage, and I request assistance establishing communication with both Earth government and current Navari authorities. The council chamber erupted in shocked whispers. What exactly are you proposing? Asked Councillor Lee. A diplomatic mission. I will offer myself as a bridge between our worlds, not as a ruler seeking to reclaim power, but as someone uniquely positioned to understand both human and Navari perspectives. Her voice remained steady despite her racing heart. The current regime is causing suffering on my homeworld. My mother is dying from a disease they have the cure for, and my ancestral memories show me that conflict between our planets will only escalate without intervention. The resistance movement enthusiastically supported her announcement, but reactions from official channels were mixed. Earth's government saw a strategic opportunity, but worried about Taya's safety. The Navari regime publicly denounced her as an imposter while privately scrambling to capture her. As diplomatic wheels turned slowly, Hannah's condition worsened. One night, when her fever peaked dangerously high, Taya placed her hands on her mother's forehead and closed her eyes. Her antennae glowed and she began to sing in an ancient Navari healing tone, knowledge pulled from her ancestors. The melody resonated strangely in the medical room, making instruments flicker. By morning, Hannah's fever had broken. How did you do that? Dr. Yoon asked, amazed by the sudden improvement. I don't fully understand it yet, Taya admitted. But I'm beginning to see that my heritage isn't just about power and control. There are other traditions, healing, connection, harmony, that were forgotten or suppressed. When Hannah was strong enough to sit up, Taya told her everything. The resistance movement, her decision to reveal herself, and her emerging plan. I understand now why you raised me with stories from both worlds, she said. You weren't just preserving, My heritage. You were preparing me for this. I can be something different than my ancestors. I can be a bridge. Hana squeezed her hand weakly. I'm terrified for you. The people who killed your birth family are still in power. I know. But I also know that hiding will solve nothing. Taya's eyes reflected a resolve beyond her years. You taught me that courage isn't about being fearless. It's about doing what's right, despite being afraid. As news of the lost Navari princess spread throughout the colonies and back to Earth, Taya began preparing for her journey. She studied diplomatic protocols and practiced controlling her newly awakened abilities. The dormant power of generations of Navari rulers now flowed through her, but tempered by human compassion and understanding, a combination that had never existed before. The princess had awakened, but she was nothing like the rulers who had come before her. The shuttle hummed as it broke Earth's atmosphere, carrying Taeya and her small team toward uncertainty. Through the viewport, she watched her adopted planet shrink to a blue marble. Beside her sat Captain June Park, one of Hana's former military colleagues who had volunteered for this dangerous mission. Having second thoughts, he asked, noticing her fixed gaze. Taya's antennae quivered slightly, a sign of tension she couldn't hide. No, but I am wondering if I'll ever see Earth again. The 5-person crew consisted of June, 2 diplomatic specialists, Day and Yuna, Dr. Suk, a xenobiologist, and Taya herself. Earth's government had reluctantly approved the mission after weeks of heated debate. Some officials saw Taya as a valuable political asset, while others considered her a liability. Neither perspective sat well with her. I'm not a weapon or a bargaining chip, she had told the Earth Council firmly. I'm going as myself, someone who understands both worlds. Their plan was simple but dangerous. Approach Navari space under diplomatic flag, request safe passage to the capital, and arrange a meeting with the current leadership. The Twilight Coalition had provided intelligence and promised ground support, but communications had been spotty in recent days. Approaching Navari checkpoint, June announced as a massive space station came into view. Everyone remember your cover stories. The official explanation for their mission was a medical exchange program, Earth scientists offering treatments for a recent outbreak in the Navari outer colonies. It was flimsy, but it might get them past the initial inspection. Harsh voice crackled over the comms. Earth vessel, identify yourself and state your purpose. As June handled the communication, Taya felt a strange pull, a recognition of home she had never consciously known. The starscape outside looked ordinary to human eyes, but she could see subtle color variations, radiation patterns that stirred. Ancient memories. This was once called the luminous path, she whispered. My ancestors traveled this route for coronation ceremonies. The inspection team boarded with weapons drawn, 4 Navari soldiers in the stark black uniforms of the new regime, their natural skin bioluminescence suppressed by military chemicals. Papers, the commander barked, barely glancing at the humans. Then his eyes fell on Taya, widening in shock. What is this creature? Our cultural liaison, Day explained smoothly. A Navari raised on Earth after being orphaned in the conflict. The commander's hand moved to his weapon. Impossible. No Navari children were permitted to leave after the revolution. Taya met his gaze steadily. Yet here I stand. Something in her voice, perhaps the natural harmonic quality that royal Navari possessed, made him hesitate. After a tense inspection, they were granted limited clearance to proceed to an outer colony station, not the capital as requested. They're suspicious, June muttered as the inspection team departed. We need to change course once we're clear of the checkpoint. Yuna shook her head. They'll be tracking us. We need another. The ship suddenly rocked violently. Warning lights flashed as June grabbed the controls. They've locked weapons, he shouted. Hang on! The next moments were chaos. Rather than a clean hit, the Navari weapons caused a cascading system failure. The shuttle tumbled out of control, emergency systems barely functional as they plummeted toward the nearest planet. Navari Prime, the homeworld Taya had never known. Brace for impact, June yelled, fighting the controls as the ground rushed. toward them. The crash was violent but survivable thanks to June's piloting skills. They hit a densely forested area miles from the nearest city. As smoke filled the cabin, they scrambled outside, gathering what supplies they could salvage. "Is everyone okay?" Taya asked, helping Dr. Suk, who had a nasty gash on her forehead. Before anyone could answer, the whine of approaching aircraft filled the air. "They're coming," June said grimly, checking his sidearm. "We need to move now." They fled into the strange forest of towering purple vegetation, but it was futile. Within hours, they were surrounded by elite Navari forces who herded them into a transport bound for the capital. The city of Luminari was nothing like the gleaming metropolis of Taeya's ancestral memories. Military checkpoints dotted every corner. Citizens hurried about with downcast eyes, their natural skin luminescence dulled. Propaganda broadcasts praised the liberation government that had freed the people from royal tyranny. Their prison was the former royal palace itself, a cruel irony not lost on Taya, as she was separated from her human companions and placed in an isolated cell. Through the barred window, she could see what had once been the ceremonial gardens, now converted to military training grounds. "The lost princess returns," said a cold voice. General Tarok, leader of the military junta, studied her from the doorway. "Though you look more human than Navari now, and you look more machine than person," Taya replied, noting the cybernetic enhancements visible at his temples, illegal modifications banned under the old laws. His expression darkened. "Your human pets will be publicly executed tomorrow. You, however, require special handling. We must ensure no one believes your ridiculous claim." When he left, Taya pressed her hands against the ancient stone walls. Unlike the modernized sections of the palace, this dungeon retained its original material. Living stone, a semi-sentient mineral that had been used by royalty for generations due to its unique properties. Closing her eyes, she concentrated as her ancestors' knowledge guided her. The stone warmed beneath her touch, responding to the specific genetic markers in her blood. Slowly, invisibly, it began to change structure. That night, as guards changed shifts, Taya slipped through a passage that hadn't existed hours before, making her way deeper into the dungeon complex. There, in the lowest cells, she found not only her human companions but dozens of Navari prisoners, political dissidents, half-bloods, and members of the Twilight Coalition. "It's her," whispered one elderly Navari woman with awe in her voice. "The markers are clear." "I'm Taya," she said simply, working to unlock their cells with the ancient key patterns her fingers now knew instinctively. "And we don't have much time." The plan formed quickly. The execution was scheduled for dawn in the central square, a public spectacle designed to crush any remaining resistance. Instead, it would become their platform. "It's suicide," June argued. "We should escape, while we can." "To where?" Taya asked. "This ends tomorrow, one way or another." As dawn broke, Taya was led to the execution platform where her human friends waited, bound and surrounded by guards. Thousands of subdued Navari citizens had been forced to attend. General Tarok himself presided, clearly relishing the moment. "Citizens of Navari Prime," his voice boomed. "Today we eliminate the last human spies in this abomination who dares claim royal blood." When Taya was pushed forward, she did not resist. Instead, she placed her hands on the execution block, made of the same living stone as the palace walls. Immediately, it began to glow, responding to her touch in a way that was impossible to fake. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Tarok shouted for the executioner to proceed, but the massive Navari hesitated, a look of religious awe crossing his face. "The stone acknowledges her," he said, dropping to one knee. "The bloodline lives." Chaos erupted. Some guards remained loyal to Tarok, while others, seeing the ancient verification that every Navari child learned about in history lessons, lowered their weapons. In the confusion, the freed prisoners from the dungeon emerged through hidden passages, joining the growing number of citizens who moved to protect Taya. What followed was not the clean revolution of stories, but a messy, desperate struggle. Taya used her newfound abilities to activate ancient security systems, protecting as many as she could. The human team fought alongside their Navari allies, demonstrating a courage that impressed even the most xenophobic onlookers. By sunset, the palace was in rebel hands, though fighting continued in parts of the city. Taya stood in the ancestral throne room, not as a conqueror but as a bridge between worlds, exactly as she had promised. Dawn broke over Luminari, painting the city in soft lavender light that filtered through the unique atmosphere of Navari Prime. 6 months had passed since the revolution, and the capital was slowly transforming. Where propaganda broadcasts once blared, music now played. Citizens walked with straighter backs and lifted chins, their natural skin luminescence returning to full brightness after years of suppression. In the palace's eastern wing, Taya stood, perfectly still as 3 elderly Navari women adjusted her ceremonial robes. The garment combined traditional royal patterns with subtle, earth-inspired elements, a physical representation of her dual heritage. "Your mother arrives today," said Mina, the oldest attendant whose family had served the royal house for generations. The first human to attend a Navari coronation. Taya smiled, her antennae glowing with pleasure. If not for her, there would be no coronation at all. The path to this day had been neither simple nor bloodless. Following the revolution, scattered military forces loyal to General Tarok had launched desperate counterattacks. The transitional government, a coalition of resistance leaders, reformed military officers, and representatives elected from each province, had faced assassination, attempts, and sabotage. Through it all, Taya had maintained a delicate balance. She refused to simply claim the throne by birthright, insisting instead on creating a constitutional monarchy where her role would be more symbolic than absolute. "Your ancestors would be horrified," her advisor Jin had commented during one particularly tense negotiation session. "Good," Taya had replied. "Their way led to revolution and suffering. We're trying something new." The most difficult challenge had been establishing peace with Earth. Many humans still distrusted Navari after the brutal war, while many Navari viewed humans as primitive invaders. Taya's unique position made her both bridge and target. 2 months earlier, at the first formal peace conference held on neutral territory, extremists from both species had coordinated an attack. Earth's diplomatic team had been seated in the chamber when explosive devices were discovered. Rather than evacuating with her security detail, Taya had rushed to help, using her ancestral knowledge of energy manipulation to contain the worst of the blast. The sight of the Navari princess bleeding purple blood to save human lives had been broadcast across both worlds, becoming a powerful symbol of unity. "Your Highness." Captain June Park appeared at the doorway, now serving as head of the Joint Human-Navari Security Force. "The Earth delegation has entered orbit. Your mother's shuttle will land in 30 minutes. Taya nodded, suddenly feeling like a young girl again rather than a princess. "Is everything prepared for her medical treatments?" "The royal physicians await her arrival. Dr. Suk believes the full treatment cycle will take approximately 3 weeks. The cure for Hana's condition had been found exactly where Taya's ancestral memories indicated, in the closely guarded Royal Medical Archives. What nobody had anticipated was that the same research contained treatments for dozens of human illnesses previously considered untreatable. This medical knowledge had become the cornerstone of the new peace accords, with exchange programs already saving lives on both worlds. The landing pad hummed with activity as Taya waited, surrounded by an honor guard of both human and Navari soldiers. When the shuttle doors opened and Hana appeared at the top of the ramp, Taya broke protocol and ran forward, embracing her mother tightly. "Careful of the robes," Hana laughed, returning the hug. "You look so regal." "And you look better," Taya said, noting the improved color in her mother's cheeks, even though she still moved with careful slowness. They spoke privately in Taya's chambers before the ceremony. Catching up on the months of separation, Hana had been too ill to travel until now, following the revolutionary events from afar. "I'm so proud of you," Hana said, adjusting one of Taya's ceremonial braids. "But also worried." The reports from Earth media only tell part of the story. Are you truly safe here? Taya's expression grew serious. As safe as anyone trying to change centuries of tradition can be. There are still those who think a human-tainted royal has no place on the throne. She squeezed her mother's hand. But there are more who see the possibility of something better. The coronation ceremony began at midday in the Great Crystal Hall. Thousands gathered inside, with millions more watching on broadcasts across 2 worlds. The hall itself was a wonder, walls of living crystal that amplified light and sound, creating an almost magical atmosphere as the ancient coronation music played. Breaking with tradition, Taya had insisted that Hana stand beside the throne platform, a place traditionally reserved for royal blood relatives only. When murmurs of protest had risen from some traditionalists, Taya had silenced them with a single clear declaration: "She is my mother in every way that matters." As the crown of luminous wisdom was placed upon her head, Taya felt the weight of history, both the ancestral memories flowing through her blood and the very real consequences of her decisions moving forward. The crown itself was a modified version of the ancient regalia, redesigned to incorporate elements symbolizing the new era. Rising to address both worlds, Taya spoke in Navari, then repeated her words in perfect English. "I stand before you as daughter of Navari, child of Earth. My blood carries the legacy of emperors, but my heart was shaped by human compassion. I do not seek to rule as my ancestors did, but to serve as a bridge between worlds that have known too much conflict and too little understanding." She continued, outlining her vision for cooperation and growth between the species. When she finished, something unprecedented happened. The crowd broke into applause, a human custom never before seen in the formal Navari court. Later that evening, at the celebration banquet, Taya slipped away from the formalities to join Hana on a private balcony overlooking the capital. "When you found me floating in that escape pod, did you ever imagine this?" Taya asked, gesturing to the cityscape below where humans and Navari mingled in celebration. Hana laughed softly. "Not even close. I was just trying to save one child. Instead, you may have saved 2 worlds." Taya touched the royal pendant at her throat, now paired with the simple necklace Hana had given her on her 10th birthday. "Tomorrow I'm announcing the Interspecies Adoption Initiative. There are so many orphans from the conflicts on both sides. They deserve what you gave me, a chance to belong somewhere." Hana's eyes filled with tears. "Your birth parents would be proud of the leader you've become." "Perhaps," Taya said thoughtfully, "but I'm more interested in making my human mom proud of the person I am." Below them, the celebration continued as night fell. Traditional Navari light dances blended with human music, creating something entirely new. Scientists from both worlds shared discoveries in animated conversations. Children, human and Navari, played together in the palace gardens that had once been military grounds. None of it was perfect. Old prejudices wouldn't disappear overnight. Political challenges and resistance to change would continue. But watching, the 2 species begin to truly see each other as people rather than enemies. Taya felt a deep certainty that they were on the right path. A group of young Navari children noticed her on the balcony and waved excitedly. Among them stood several human children, visitors from the first school exchange program. Taya waved back, her antennae glowing brightly with hope. 2 worlds, she murmured. 1 future. Beside her, Hana smiled. 1 family at a time.